my happy places right here in the kitchen. Hello, I'm Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme. And today we're in the kitchen and we're cooking. Now, we are going to put together a nice meal. We're going to have some chicken wings that we're going to do in the oven. We're going to put together an acorn squash that we're going to slice and roast in the oven. And we may throw in a few more vegetables with it. And we're also going to have some stovetop green beans. Now, if you want to know what else is going on in the kitchen, stay tuned, because you know we always have something extra. We got apple pie, we've got all kinds of stuff. It's just going to be one of those days having fun. It is a rainy day, and so why not spend it having fun right here in the kitchen? So stay tuned. Now, you know that in this kitchen, we do things in the kitchen for the kitchen. That includes cooking, that includes decorating. It's all those things in the kitchen, because the kitchen is the hub of the house. And that's where the family gathers. And that's where everybody giggles, we play games, we do everything right here in the kitchen. And if you're interested in those kind of things that are done in the kitchen, then I hope you will like, subscribe, and share this video. Now, today's video is going to be just a little bit longer than normal, and that's because we're covering a whole day, guys, and it's a lot of cooking going on. So hang in there with me, kick back, get something to drink, and just enjoy yourself. See you in a moment. I had a few apples that were less than stellar. And so what I'm doing is that I'm just dicing them up and putting them into this bowl. And you know, anytime you start dicing apples, you know what that means. That an apple cobbler or an apple pie is in the making. So I have peeled these little Empire apples that were absolutely delicious. But I probably had them for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And so they're just at that point where they're not looking their best. So we're just I've taken the peel off because I'm a little sensitive to the peels. And so I am dicing these and putting them into the bowl, because we are going to get them mixed in with some other apples that have already been dressed. And when I say that they've been dressed, that means that they already have their brown sugar, their granulated sugar, their cinnamon, their nutmeg. All those good things have already been added to the mix. And what I did was I put them into a Ziploc bag and froze them, which when the apples get to a point where they're not quite at their best or they don't quite look their best, I typically cube them, toss them in a freezer bag, and put them into the freezer, because then we're able to pull them out when we need them for whatever recipe it may be that apples need to be a part of. Now, I am so glad that you're going to be a part of this, because you're going to be able to enjoy this apple pie as well. And you know, the funny thing is that the big guy, when he comes down, I know the smell of this apple pie is going to be what brings him right down to this kitchen. And he's going to be sitting there looking to see what's coming out of the oven. So that's always fun too, because then you know whatever it is that you're fixing, everybody likes. So we're going to finish up this last apple, and we're going to be ready to put our pie together. I'm preheating the oven to 400, and what that's going to do is to make this pan sizzle once it gets into the oven. Now you can see that I'm taking out that pack of apples that I've had in the freezer, and I'm mixing them with the apples that we just diced. And it's going to give our pie a good texture. And I'm just going to mix them up well. And once all the juices and the bubbling and the heating all come together, this is going to be a delicious little cobbler. Now notice the size of the cobbler. It is perfect. And this would be perfect, really, for a group of 6 people. So I'm taking 2 pie crusts because I like a crust on the bottom of my cobbler. So I have sprayed my dish, my rectangular dish, and I've covered it with one pie shell. And so I'm putting those apples in, and we had really, to be honest with you, they were probably just a little too much, but I'd rather have too many apples than not enough. So I am going to use every apple, and I'm putting all of that into, and notice how I'm just kind of pressing down, making sure that I have everything tight into this container. And you know, sometimes you get apple pies and they look like they're really going to be good until you open them. And when you open it, you find out, oh my goodness, where are the apples? Because everything shrinks. And so I know for sure with this little cobbler, there's not going to be any shrinking. So I'm adding just a little sprinkle more of cinnamon, and just to make sure that we've got enough in there. And I am going to trim our pie shell that we had. This is Pillsbury, and I'm just going to pop it right on top. Do a little tucking under, and I'm tucking under so that if there's any bubbling, and what I'm doing is that I'm actually pressing that crust down into the dish itself so that it will kind of seal, and we won't have a lot of leakage out of this cobbler. So I'm just getting everybody tucked in, kind of like you would if you were going to tuck everybody in for bed, making sure that there's no cold air. Then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to put in some vents, and that's so that if there's any bubbling, it won't crack my shell. But we've got little vents, little air vents, so all the steam can come out, and it's going to be perfect. This cobbler baked at 400 for about 45 minutes. Start checking around 30, and look at how brown it is. Now also you'll notice that I sat it inside of another pan, and the reason for that is that very often with apples, you know, those juices are going to be produced and you will have some bubbling. So be sure to put it inside on another pan so that you won't have a mess. Now, you know, we are all looking for that happy place, and there are just some days that, in spite of work and in spite of how grateful we are to the fact that we are still a part of the living, that you know, we just have those days when we're a little down. And as we think about all the things that are going on around us, sometimes it's real tough to be happy. And so everyone needs a happy place, somewhere they can kind of go and escape, whether it's in a book, whether they can put on their headphones and tune into some good music, whatever that place is. Sometimes you just need to slip into that spot and find that location. Now today we're going to spend our happy time together, and we're going to do it right here in the kitchen. So what we're going to do first is that I have some chicken wings, and you know, guys, things are getting tight. They've been tight for quite a while, but I have a feeling that they're going to be just a little tighter than what we've had to deal with for quite a while. And we are having to watch our budgets. We're having to feed ourselves and maybe someone else in addition to that. And you may even share a meal or two with someone that you know. And if you do, I give you kudos, definitely, because that's always a fun thing to be able to do, to cook for yourself as well as someone else. Now I'm starting these wings with a little bit of canola oil. Just putting a little bit in. And I'm going to add in some salt and pepper. Got some salt. This is one I need to refill. Just going to sprinkle a little in because we want our wings to be well seasoned. And I'm going to keep that handy because I do need to refill it. And we have some pepper. So I'm just going to sprinkle in our pepper. Now I'm going to put this in the convection oven for about 40 minutes. And when it comes out, it will be time for dinner. Now, I have my health seasoning. And it has a little bit of cumin in it. I like that. And has some paprika in it. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of Mrs. Dash in, just to kind of take it over the top. All right, we got that in. And then I'm just going to take these and I'm going to try to give them a little toss without having to really get too up close and personal to them, to give them a chance to everybody to get covered in all the goodness and to not make a total mess. So let's see if we can do that. Now this is a little early in the day, so it's not time for them to go into the oven yet. But I am just going to move these around. Now you could use, if you had some Italian dressing. I do that pretty often, the liquid Italian dressing. Take about a half a bottle of that and pour over your chicken. When you take it out, just take a paper towel, dry it off a little bit, and then put it into your oven. The Italian dressing gives it a wonderful flavor. And today, we're just going to do our own flavoring rather than depending on the Italian dressing. So I think everybody's pretty well covered with seasonings. So I'm going to stick this into the refrigerator. And I'll take it out about 30 minutes before time to put it in the oven. And I'm figuring at least I'll need to do that about an hour before dinner time. So we typically have dinner somewhere between 5:30. So at about 4 o'clock, the chicken will need to come out. Now this morning, I got real industrious, and I'll put a clip in. I made a quick, little now, apple cobbler. And I was trying to use up some apples that I had, and I mixed it with some apples and brown sugar that I had from some earlier apples. And what I try to do when I buy apples, I typically buy a ton, and they're not always eaten, unfortunately, at that setting. And so sometimes they start to get a little bruised and a little brown. So when that happens, I just peel them, dice them up, put them in a freezer bag, and throw them into the freezer. So let me get this chicken into the refrigerator, and I'll be right back. Now I went into the refrigerator and looked in the vegetable bin, because that's one of those places you always want to look. I saw that I had some zucchini. And you know, being that we're going to be on a squash thing today, zucchini would be a great squash to be able to put into the oven and roast. So I am going to rinse this zucchini off. Today would be a good day for that. The roasting and turning on the oven is not a problem today, because we have, it's rather cool, and I want to, okay, there's our pieces. We're looking pretty good. Now I'm going to make these about a 1/2 inch thick. All these little slices. And I'm going to put them in my bowl. Here's my bowl. Put those in there. And I have another one. This one is a little, some parts of it is a little past its prime. I had it and I forgot I even had them. So if you see that you have a bad spot, you know, the bad spot just has to go bye-bye. So I'm throwing our squash in, 1/2 inch slices. Sometimes they have little bad spots and you just have to take those bad spots off. So we are, okay, that was 2 nice size zucchinis. I think that'll be enough for the 2 of us. We're just fixing for 2. Now, let's take a look at that acorn squash. And he does. He looks like a little acorn. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to slice it right between, well, that was the plan anyway. Well, I'm telling you here that definitely don't do what you see me doing at this point. Make sure that you have a very sharp knife. And I can tell you, this acorn squash is rough to cut. It was so hard. Look at what a time I'm having. So, my warning to you is, be careful with your fingers. I was fortunate in that I did not cut myself. My husband was very impressed that I did this. Whew. Oh, I didn't think I'd ever get that zucchini cut in half. And I tell you what, peeling it wasn't an easy task either, which you're going to see. I first scooped out all the pulp, and then I had to work out and figure out what was the best way to peel it. I tried it with a knife, and then I went to my trusty little peeling device, which worked perfectly. I should have just used that from the very beginning. But anyway, we got it all peeled and we got it ready, and I tell you what, I am so glad we did. Bag for our other half of our acorn squash, and I'm not going to do anything to it other than try to get as much air out as I possibly can, and I am going to put him right in the freezer. So, now I don't know about you, but you know, over the past months that we've been somewhat on lockdown, well, some parts of it we were really locked down, and most of it we've been at least slightly quarantined, other than getting groceries and coming back home. And I try to limit my exposure even then by doing curbside, and sometimes I have them deliver. If things are really crazy, I just have them bring it, and I don't worry about it. But you know, we do our 1 plan, 1 month, and 1 shop, and that has been working out really well, because I picked up these vegetables. I did all of that in our 1 shop. And so you just have to look at a month and see what you actually use and how much you use. And then when you're making your grocery list, you know how much of that particular thing you're going to need to purchase. That's kind of like, now I have to admit, I was off with coffee this month. And the reason for that is because the coffee that I like wasn't there. So I had, or at least not enough. So I had to take what I could get and just deal with that. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting this onion into wedges. That's a half onion. I've put it in its wedges. And I think I may as well just do the whole thing. Because if you don't, this one, I think I'll put in my green beans. That's what I'll do. So I'm going to use a half an onion in our roasted vegetables. But we like green beans, so I'll fix some green beans. So I'm going to sit them over in this cup. And there's our onions for the green beans, and we've got onions for our squashes, because the acorn is a squash. All right, so in this container, we are going to, let me find my, okay, there it is. I'm finding my salt. I'm not sure I've even opened this one yet. Nope. Hadn't opened it, so we need to do that. Get it all cleaned up. Now, I promise you some of this will zip through very quickly because you don't really want to look at that. But you know, should I decide to start cooking live, you're going to get it all. You're going to get it all. We're going to chit chat. You're going to talk, and I'm going to listen and talk, and we're going to cook together. Okay, so we've got salt, about a teaspoon of salt in there. I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of pepper. Oops, wrong one. About a teaspoon of pepper. Okay, that I'm going to sprinkle all over. Now, I like just a little bit of sweetness, but not too sweet. So I'm going to get my brown sugar out. And I need to refill it, but it's not going to be right now. I need a long spoon because, let's see if I can do this with this. Might work. Kind of scrape it down, scrape some of those sides down. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of brown sugar and I'm going to sprinkle it in because that's going to give it a little extra flavor. So that did it. Now I'm going to leave this out because I think I've got another bag of brown sugar, so I need to fill that up. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up. I'm going to stir these guys up, and this is going into the refrigerator as well. So let me rinse our spoon off that I had thrown into our hot water and take my time without throwing everything out. Just made a mess, but that's okay. So I'm just tossing the zucchini, the acorn squash, and the onions around. So everybody gets a little salt, pepper, and brown sugar. All right, and here's our onion. So I'm just going to keep that there, throw everything in there. I'm going to get things cleaned up, and then we'll be right back. Green beans, and I'm going to do them right here in this pot. I'm going to turn the pot up about medium. I'm going to add just a couple little drizzles of grapeseed oil, about a tablespoon, not even that really, because I'm going to put in a teaspoon of bacon drippings from this morning's bacon. Okay, so I'm going to put that teaspoon in. It's going to give us some good flavor. There we go. I'll keep this handy so I can just do a little stirring. And this is just a quick and easy green beans. I'm not going to add any ham or bacon to it. I am going to need some broth, and I have some homemade broth. Now I want all of this to melt. I'm going to add in that half onion that we cut up just a few minutes ago. I've thrown that in, and I believe I saw, well, I guess I didn't. I thought I had another partially cut up onion in the refrigerator, but I didn't. You know, you try to use all those things up when you're doing it. So I have my onion. I'm going to let that cook for just a few minutes. Then I'm going to add in some, this is homemade chicken broth. So I'm going to get the other spoon, and I'm going to add just a little bit of that homemade broth. Now, my green beans are from Aldi's. It's their bag of frozen green beans. But you know, green beans don't have to be bland. So if you're just taking that bag of green beans and throwing it at your family and wondering why they're still sitting, that's probably the reason. So this is this is a pound, a 16-ounce bag of green beans. So our broth is pretty well flavored already. So I'm taking my spoon, get everybody mixed up. Now, you know, my mom, when she was cooking vegetables like this, she always added a little pinch of sugar because she said it took whatever bitterness was in the vegetable out. Now, since we have our brown sugar sitting here, I'm going to get a teaspoon of brown sugar right there in the mix. That was awfully flat, right? You know me. I need a heaping. So there's my heaping teaspoon of brown sugar. And I'm going to mix that up. And I'm just going to let these simmer on low because I've still got quite a bit of time before I'll start working on the chicken and roasted veggies. So we've got everybody together. I'm looking down there. I'm thinking I may need just a little more broth. So let's put just a little bit more. I'm going to say you probably need about a cup of broth. And whether it's yours or it's made up with just some bouillon, you know, have enough juice to cook your green beans. And because these are frozen, you're not going to have to cook them all day. Because sometimes with those that you do, that we do fresh, they require a little more time, quite a bit more time, and a lot of liquid. So I am going to put this down on low. I'm going to put a top on it and let those start to boil, and then I'll turn them down even more. So I'm putting everything away. I had to reset the table again for dinner, so I've got everything back in place. You saw where I put this arrangement together and put the tablescape together, and it has gone over very well. So everything's back in place and ready for dinner tonight. Well, we're about an hour before dinner starts, and I have a pan that's covered with parchment paper that I'm going to lay out the uh, chicken wings on. And the chicken wings were already seasoned, and so we're just going to take the next moment and get everything out on the pan. Now, the oven is set on convect bake at 425, and I'm figuring about 40 to 45 minutes, and these wings should be finished. Now, you may want about halfway through the baking time, or about a third of the way. I think of it in thirds. About a third of the time, after about, say, 15-20 minutes, you'll want to flip these over. And then the last 10 minutes, flip them back over again to make sure that those skins are nice and crispy. I am not going to put the roasted vegetables in until about the last 15 minutes or so. And the reason I'm using parchment rather than nonstick foil is because I realized I was out of nonstick foil. I didn't know that. I had a extra box of foil, but I thought it was the nonstick rather than just regular foil. So I'm going to have to use parchment paper on with the vegetables as well, and because I don't want them to stick, and it will help with cleanup because this is going to go by very quickly. I'll just be able to roll the paper up and get everything cleaned up. I love it. So here we go. We're putting our vegetables out, and you notice that it had created some juice. And so I'm just kind of spreading everything out, making sure it's got a good surface and that the heat can get to it. So like I said, the last 15 minutes we will put the vegetables in because I don't want them overcooked if possible. So we've got everything right there. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with the juice. I really don't want to throw it away, so I may even just kind of toss it into those green beans that we worked on earlier. Now, so guess what? Here they are after their 15 minutes. The chicken wings are still in the oven, but I am just kind of popping those vegetables up off the plate, putting them over in this bowl. And the reason for that is so I can get the pan out of the way and bring the wings out of the oven. But they're perfect. They are nice and tender. And I'm telling you, the acorn squash for me tasted just like a light version of sweet potatoes. They were delicious, and you'll love them. I promise you. Your family may look at it and think, acorn squash? But let me tell you, they were really good. And so I have all the little vegetables put in, and watch. That's it. Clean up. Done. Voila. I love it. So, pan. I'll just take a damp towel, wipe it off, and it's ready to go. So, and that's what I'm doing over there. I'm getting that pan wiped off and getting put back. And now it's time to bring the wings out. So let's get those out of the oven. Aren't they pretty? Now, let's get down to business. I've got my plate ready, and I am going to put some wings on the plate. See, they're sticking, and that's because I was not able to use the non-stick foil, which would have cut that out. But that's okay. It's okay. Because guess what? When all of these wings are gone, I'm going to fold this paper up just like I did the other. And it's going to be ready. So we've got green beans on the plate. I'm putting our squashes on the plate as well. That was my clock going off. That's going to be so good. You notice that I'm taking little bits of the squash. Oh, Yummy. And it's nice and hot, ready to go. So, plate 2. Let's get it everything on the plate. Get those veggies on the plate. And this is mine. I think I'll have an extra little acorn squash for me. And I'm going to get some green beans. They were delicious. So they're nice and hot. Everything is hot. And that's what I love. So I'm just moving those wings around. And I was going to go ahead and pull it up, but I decided I'd wait until after dinner. So there's our second plate. So now let's do a little tasting. Let's look at that plate. Oh, those vegetables are hot. Yummy. If you love vegetables, roasting those vegetables or low simmering vegetables, it's so good. So the green beans were well seasoned and they were good. And those roasted vegetables were absolutely delicious. Now the big guy is in there and he's eating already. So guess what? I'm going to join him. Mwah! Blessings to you and yours. Have fun tonight. Now you didn't think I forgot about that apple cobbler. Oh my goodness. I've scooped some out. I've got plenty of crust for both of us. I took that end piece because you know I like the crust. And it's hot. I'm making sure I put it in the microwave for a minute so that you can see the steam coming off. That's the big guys. And then we're going to scoop out some ice cream and put it on top. And of course, you know, you can never find the ice cream scoop when you want it. And I tell you what, this ice cream was hard. Jeez. So, but we got him out. That's okay. So we've got ice cream. And, oh my goodness, there it is. So that's the big guys. Yes, you saw that. You think I should give him a little bit more? Well, maybe just a little bit. I mean, after all, we only have dessert on Sunday. So he's going to get a little bit of ice cream, maybe. So that's his. Now, let me get mine out, because Mama wants a little too. We have worked all day. I've worked all day in the kitchen. And so, dessert is what I've been waiting for. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, I would absolutely rather have dessert than anything. And in fact, I even like eating my dessert with my dinner. But there's just something about the sugar and the salt. I don't know what it is, but I love it. I love having dessert with my dinner. So I'm working that ice cream out, and we're wiggling it out. And then we're going to take a bite. Because, you know, when I look at this, I can see how those apples have come together, the ones that we already had that were frozen, in addition to the new apples that we put into the mix. And we are going to, I'm putting the top on it. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to get things out of your way so that it won't be an issue. But you know what? It's time to eat. I'm trying to give that ice cream just a moment to melt just a little bit over that cobbler. So there's the big guy's spoon. And then here's mine. Look at that. I want crust. Okay, that's just the first little one. Okay, I'm trying to adjust that camera. Now, let's get down to business. I want apples. I want crust, and I want ice cream all on that one spoon. There we go. Oh my goodness, it's good. It's really good, guys. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I hope you treat your family to an apple cobbler for dessert, because it's fall, y'all. See you soon. Thank you so much for spending a day with me in the kitchen. I know it's a little longer than usual, but you know what? We had a ball. We enjoyed ourselves. We had meals and giggles and tables and all kinds of things right here in the kitchen together. What a great time. This is what you do with your family. You pull in, you sit down, you giggle, and somebody's up and cooking all the time. Or at least they are at my house. So this is a great place to come, and I hope you will take the time to join our family. I must say thank you to those of you who are already members of the family, and I hope those of you who have just happened by today that you'll come back and that you'll like and subscribe and share this video. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you continue to be blessed. I'll see you soon right here in the kitchen.